Captain Vexistar stared at the communication panel and tried to control the fear that was making his scales tighten across his body. In 40 cycles of space exploration, he had never been in a situation where he felt so completely out of his depth. The human voice on the other end of the transmission was calm and polite, but Vextar knew that he was speaking to representatives of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. "This is Captain Vextar of the Zeltharian vessel Cosmic Dawn," he said finally. "We were conducting a routine survey mission and did not intend to intrude on human territory." The human voice, which had identified itself as Commander Greg Taylor, responded with what sounded like gentle amusement. "Captain, we've been aware of your mission since you left Zeltharian space 3 months ago. We know you're not here by accident, and we know you've been investigating our defensive perimeter. We also know that you intercepted our internal communications about Project Lighthouse." Kesaani and Velnoth exchanged worried glances. If the humans had been monitoring their ship since the beginning of their mission, it meant that human technology was even more advanced than the intercepted transmission had suggested. The idea that humans could track ships across multiple star systems without being detected was terrifying. "We mean no harm," Vextar said. "We were simply curious about the quarantine zone." "We understand," Commander Taylor replied. "Curiosity is a valuable trait and one that we respect. In fact, your species' approach to this investigation is part of the reason we've decided to make contact with you." The main screen flickered, and suddenly a human face appeared. Commander Greg Taylor looked like a man in his 40s with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. He was wearing a uniform that seemed to be made of some kind of advanced material that shifted colors depending on the angle of view. Behind him, Vextar could see what appeared to be the bridge of a human ship, but the technology visible in the background was unlike anything in galactic databases. "Captain Vextar," Taylor said, "I want to be completely honest with you about your situation. Your ship is currently surrounded by 17 human vessels that exist in a state of dimensional phase displacement. You cannot see them on your sensors because they are not entirely present in normal space, but they are there. If we intended to harm you, you would already be dead." Velnoth quickly checked his instruments and confirmed what Taylor had said. There were no ships visible on their sensors, but there were strange distortions in space around them that suggested the presence of objects using technology beyond their understanding. "However," Taylor continued, "we do not intend to harm you. Instead, we want to offer you something that no galactic species has been offered in 50 years. A choice." "What kind of choice?" Vextar asked. Taylor leaned forward slightly, and his expression became more serious. "Captain, your species has reached a decision point in its development. Based on our analysis of Zeltharian culture, technology, and ethical systems, we believe you may be ready for what we call graduated contact with human civilization." "I don't understand." "For 50 years, we have been watching galactic civilization and waiting for species to develop the wisdom and restraint necessary to handle advanced technology responsibly. Most species are still focused on conquest, resource accumulation, and territorial expansion. They see technology as a tool for gaining advantage over their neighbors." Taylor paused and gestured to someone off-screen. A moment later, a woman appeared beside him. She was introduced as Engineer Carla Rodriguez, and she carried a device that looked like a simple metal box. "Captain," Carla said, "what I'm holding is a small example of human engineering technology. With your permission, I'd like to demonstrate how it works." Vextar looked at his crew and then nodded. "Very well," Carla activated the device, and immediately the bridge of the cosmic dawn was filled with readings that made no sense according to known physics. The ship's engines, which had been operating at normal efficiency, suddenly began producing 10 times more power while using less fuel. The life support systems became more effective. The artificial gravity became more stable, and even the lighting seemed brighter and more natural. "What did you do?" Velnoth asked, staring at his instruments in amazement. "I improved your ship," Carla said simply. "The device I'm holding contains what we call a reality optimization field. It convinces the local area of space that your ship's systems are operating according to improved physical laws. Your engines now work at theoretical maximum efficiency. Your power systems have been optimized, and your structural integrity has been enhanced." The demonstration was impressive, but Vextar sensed there was more to it. "What happens if the device is misused?" Carla's expression became serious. If someone tried to modify the field parameters without understanding the underlying principles, they could accidentally erase their ship from existence. Or they could create a cascade effect that would destabilize local space-time and destroy everything within several light years. "Which is why," Commander Taylor continued, "we only share this technology with species that have proven they can handle the responsibility. The galaxy is full of civilizations that would use reality manipulation technology to conquer their neighbors or gain economic advantages. We cannot allow that to happen." Vextar was beginning to understand the true scope of what the humans were offering. "You're talking about fundamentally changing how the galaxy works." "Exactly. For 50 years, we've been waiting for species to mature to the point where they could be trusted with the power to reshape reality itself. We've identified 17 species that show the necessary wisdom, ethical development, and restraint for this responsibility. And the Zeltharians are one of them?" "Based on our analysis, yes. Your species has a history of peaceful exploration, scientific curiosity, and ethical decision-making. More importantly, your response to discovering our defensive perimeter showed that you understand when to be cautious rather than aggressive." Taylor stood up and walked closer to the screen. "Captain, I want you to understand the choice you're facing. You can return to Zeltharian space and report what you've discovered to your government and the Galactic Council. This will likely cause panic and possibly lead to an attempt at preemptive military action against human space. Such an action would fail, but it would force us to take a more active role in galactic affairs. What's the alternative? You can accept our offer to begin the gradual introduction of advanced technology to your species. We would start with small improvements like the one Engineer Rodriguez just demonstrated, and gradually introduce more advanced concepts as your people prove they can handle them responsibly. And what would you want in return? Nothing except your commitment to use the technology wisely and to help us evaluate other species for similar partnerships. We're not interested in conquest or control. We're interested in helping the galaxy grow into something better than it currently is." Kasani, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. "Commander Taylor, why are you doing this? If you're as advanced as you seem to be, why do you care what happens to the rest of the galaxy?" Taylor smiled at her question. "Navigator, Kasani, humanity learned something important during our development. Intelligence without wisdom is dangerous, and power without compassion is destructive. We could easily conquer the galaxy, but that would make us the same as every other species that has ever achieved technological superiority. We prefer to be teachers rather than conquerors." Engineer Rodriguez added, "Besides, the universe is A much more interesting place when it's full of diverse advanced civilizations working together rather than one dominant species controlling everything else. Captain Vexitar felt the weight of the decision on his shoulders. Everything he chose now would affect not just his own career but the future of his entire species and possibly the galaxy itself. The safe choice would be to report back to the Navigation Guild and let others make the decision. But he had a feeling that the safe choice might not be the right choice. "If we accept your offer," he said slowly, "what happens to the other species in the galaxy? The ones you don't think are ready for advanced technology?" "They continue developing at their own pace," Taylor replied. "We don't interfere with species that aren't ready for contact with us, but we also don't allow them to threaten species that are working with us. Think of it as a graduated system where species advance to higher levels of technology and cooperation as they prove they can handle the responsibility. And if they never prove they can handle it, then they remain at their current level until they do. Some species may take centuries to develop the necessary wisdom. Others may never develop it at all. But every species gets the chance to prove itself." Vexitar looked at his crew and saw the same mixture of fear and excitement in their faces that he felt in his own heart. This was the kind of decision that would be studied by historians for generations, assuming there were still historians around to study it. "Commander Taylor," he said finally, "I accept your offer on behalf of my crew, but I want to make it clear that I'm doing this because I believe it's the right choice for the galaxy, not just for my own species." High Chancellor Mortal of the Zephyrian Republic called an emergency session of the Galactic Council just 6 hours after Ambassador Quinn's report reached the home worlds. The massive council chamber on Zephyr Prime had never seen such chaos. As representatives from 43 species argued, demanded answers, and made threats they could not back up. Mordal was old even by Zephyrian standards, and his blue-green skin had faded to almost gray over his centuries of life. He had guided the Confederation through trade disputes, border conflicts, and natural disasters, but nothing had prepared him for news that a primitive species had somehow become a major galactic power overnight. The council chamber erupted in angry voices as Quinn finished his report. Representative Skal of the militaristic Cronin Empire slammed his six-fingered fist on his desk and roared, "Impossible! No species develops dreadnought-class warships in 50 years!" From across the chamber, Trade Minister Plex of the Hivan Commercial Alliance clicked her mandibles in agitation. "The economic implications are staggering. If the humans can manufacture vessels of this capability, our entire technological superiority is an illusion." Mordal raised one webbed hand for silence, but the chamber ignored him. Panic was spreading, as each species realized what Quinn's report meant for their own position in the galactic hierarchy. The carefully maintained balance of power that had kept peace for centuries was crumbling. Meanwhile, aboard the Leviathan, Admiral Carter received her own reports from Earth's intelligence network. Commander Nancy Brooks had been monitoring Confederation communications for hours, and the picture she painted was not encouraging. "Admiral," Brooks said, "we are tracking massive military movements throughout Confederation space. At least 30 species are mobilizing their fleets. The chatter suggests they are planning some kind of coordinated response." Carter studied the tactical displays surrounding her command chair. The Confederation had thousands of ships scattered across hundreds of systems, but she was not impressed by the numbers. Quantity was no substitute for quality, and the alien. Fleets were built for policing primitives, not fighting peer opponents. Dr. Foster looked up from her analysis station. "Admiral, I have been studying the communication intercepts. The aliens are terrified. They keep talking about something called the Destroyer Wars, as if our technology reminds them of some ancient enemy. Carter nodded. It should remind them. We built our ships using the same principles that nearly destroyed the galaxy 10,000 years ago. The difference is that we learned restraint along with power. Earth's response to the Confederation's mobilization was swift and decisive. Admiral Paul Stevens took command of the UES Titan, humanity's second dreadnought, and positioned it at the edge of Confederation space. The message was clear. Humanity was not hiding anymore. Captain Helen White led the heavy cruiser UES Defiance on a diplomatic mission to the Outer Rim, where several species had already begun sending secret messages to Earth. The Confederation's unity was fracturing as member species questioned whether their leaders could protect them from the human threat. On the bridge of the Defiance, White reviewed the files on the species she would be contacting. The Aldari had joined the Confederation only 50 years ago and still remembered their independence. The Velcoran mining guilds had been pressured into membership when their home system's resources became strategically important. Both groups were now reconsidering their allegiances. Back on Earth, President Mary Johnson addressed the global population in a speech that was simultaneously broadcast to every human colony and monitoring station. Her words were carefully chosen to reassure humanity while warning the galaxy about the consequences of underestimating Earth. "My fellow humans," Johnson said from the steps of the rebuilt United Nations building, "today marks the end of our isolation and the beginning of our expansion to the stars. We have learned that the galaxy is not empty and that other civilizations have been watching us. Some of them see us as children to be guided. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The speech was monitored by every intelligence service in Confederation space. Johnson's words were analyzed by teams of alien psychologists trying to understand human intentions. What they found disturbed them more than any military threat. The humans were not conquerors seeking to dominate the galaxy. They were not refugees fleeing a dying world. They were explorers with the power to take whatever they wanted and the confidence to believe they deserved it. This was a completely new type of species, and the Confederation had no procedures for dealing with them. Admiral Carter received a priority message from Earth Command as the Leviathan patrolled the boundary between human and Confederation space. The message was simple, but significant. Intelligence had confirmed that 6 species were secretly negotiating separate peace treaties with humanity. "Admiral," Commander Torres reported, "we are receiving a transmission from the Aldari home world. They want to establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth, separate from the Confederation." Carter was not surprised. The Aldari were traitors by nature, and they could recognize a profitable opportunity when they saw one. Humanity offered them something the Confederation never could: partnership instead of subordination. The Confederation's attempts to organize a military response revealed their fundamental weakness. Centuries of hierarchical thinking had left them unprepared for the kind of rapid, decisive action that modern warfare required. Their ships had to be recalled from patrol duties, their crews needed training for combat operations, and their commanders had no experience fighting opponents who could shoot back effectively. More importantly, their member species were losing faith in Confederation leadership. If the humans could build ships that outclassed anything in the galactic fleet, what did that say about the technology and protection the Confederation had been providing? Chief Engineer Pete Collins worked in the Leviathan's engine room, monitoring the fusion antimatter reactors that powered humanity's most advanced warship. The technology still seemed like magic to him, even after 2 years of working with it. The ancient aliens who built the original designs had understood physics in ways that modern species had forgotten. "Sir," Collins reported to Carter over the internal communication system, "the power plant is running perfectly. We could fight for weeks without needing to shut down for maintenance." Carter acknowledged the report and turned her attention back to the tactical situation. The Confederation was mobilizing for war, but they were making all the classic mistakes. They were moving slowly, telegraphing their intentions, and assuming that their numerical superiority would be decisive. Humanity had learned different lessons from studying the dead civilizations scattered throughout the galaxy. Speed was more important than size. Initiative was more valuable than numbers. And most importantly, the species that survived were the ones that ended fights quickly. Dr. Foster's analysis of captured Confederation technology revealed exactly how quickly humanity could end this fight if necessary. Alien defensive systems were designed to stop weapons that humans had surpassed years ago. Their faster-than-light drives required fixed jump points that human ships could attack. Their communication networks used encryption that Earth's computers could break in hours. "Admiral," Foster reported, "if this becomes a shooting war, we could cripple their entire infrastructure in less than a week. Their technology is centuries behind ours in every area that matters." Carter nodded but felt no satisfaction. She had hoped the aliens would be reasonable, that they would accept humanity's emergence as a galactic power and adapt to the new reality. Instead, they were choosing to fight a war they could not win. The final proof of Confederation intentions came when Ambassador Quinn sent one last diplomatic message to the Leviathan. The transmission was formal and official, carrying the weight of 43 governments behind it. "Admiral Carter," Quinn's voice said, "the Galactic Council has voted. Humanity's expansion beyond the solar system is deemed a threat to galactic peace. You have 72 hours to withdraw your ships to Earth space and accept Confederation oversight of your civilization. Failure to comply will result in military action." Carter listened to the message twice before responding. When she finally activated the communication system, her voice carried across space to every Confederation ship and monitoring station in the sector. "Ambassador Quinn, this is Admiral Carter. Humanity rejects your ultimatum. We will expand where we choose, when we choose, and how we choose. If you want to stop us, you are welcome to try." The die was cast. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met a movable object. Humanity had tried diplomacy and been rejected. Now they would try war, and the aliens would discover why the ancient destroyers had nearly conquered the galaxy with similar technology. Carter looked out at the stars and wondered how many alien civilizations would survive the coming storm. She had tried to warn them, but some lessons could only be learned through pain. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan and felt the ship come alive around her. The massive vessel had been sleeping in the shadow of Neptune for 2 years, waiting for this moment. Now every system was powering up, and the ship trembled with barely controlled energy. The Leviathan was 3 kilometers of death wrapped in armor that could stop a nuclear blast. Its hull was made from materials that did not exist anywhere else in the known galaxy, built using technology that humanity had found in the ruins of an ancient alien war. Carter had spent 5 years learning to command this monster, and she still felt small when she walked its corridors. "All stations report ready," called out Commander Ryan Torres from the weapons station. Ryan was the best tactical officer in the Earth Defense Force, which was why Carter had chosen him for this mission. His job was to make sure the aliens understood exactly what they were facing. Dr. Amanda Foster sat at the science station, watching screens full of data about the alien fleet. She had been studying alien technology for 10 years, ever since the first ruins were found on Mars. The work had driven other scientists crazy, but Amanda had learned to think like beings from another world. Their ships are moving toward the meeting point, Amanda said. I count 12 vessels, all armed but not charging weapons. They think they are in control of this situation. Chief Engineer Pete Collins worked at his station to keep the Leviathan's impossible engines running smoothly. The ship used fusion and antimatter together in ways that should have destroyed it, but somehow the ancient alien technology made it work. Pete did not understand how it worked, but he knew how to keep it working. Communications Officer Nancy Brooks monitored the alien messages as they flew back and forth between their ships. They are very confident, she reported. They keep talking about how this will be just like all the other times they have done this. Carter smiled, but it was not a nice smile. The aliens thought they knew what would happen because they had done it 43 times before. They had met 43 species and made them all bow down. They expected number 44 to be just the same. The Leviathan moved through space like a silent predator. Its engines made no sound, but they pushed the massive ship faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Carter had studied every report about alien technology, and she knew their ships were limited by old fusion drives and primitive navigation systems. Admiral, Ryan said, we are approaching the meeting point. The alien fleet is already there, waiting for us. Carter nodded. Put their ships on the main screen. The forward display lit up with an image of the alien fleet. 12 silver ships, hung in space like jewels against the darkness. They were beautiful, Carter had to admit. Flowing lines and graceful curves made them look like works of art rather than weapons of war. But Carter saw more than beauty. She saw ships that had been designed by beings who had never faced real opposition. The aliens had built their vessels to impress primitive species, not to fight wars against equals. Their weapons were visible on the hull, placed where enemies could see them and be afraid. Their armor was thick, but made from materials that Carter's weapons could punch through like paper. Sir, Nancy said, we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They are asking us to identify ourselves. Put me on screen, Carter said. She straightened her uniform and looked directly into the camera. This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the United Earthship Leviathan. We have come to talk. On the alien flagship, Ambassador Veltar Quinn stared at his screens in confusion. His sensors were telling him impossible things about the human ship. The vessel was enormous, bigger than any warship in the Confederation fleet. Its energy output was higher than a space station. Most disturbing of all, his computers could not identify what the human ship was made of. Tactical Advisor Krellness, Quinn called to his military expert. What are you seeing? Krellness was a reptilian warrior whose species had conquered half their home galaxy before joining the Confederation. He had seen every type of warship that existed, but the human vessel made no sense to him. Sir, their ship appears to be some kind of dreadnought, but the power readings are impossible. No species we know can build something like this. On the Leviathan, Amanda watched the alien fleet's reaction with satisfaction. Admiral, their ships are starting to charge weapons. I think we surprised them. Carter nodded. Ryan, show them what they are dealing with. Activate the defensive systems. Ryan's hands moved over his controls, and the Leviathan's shields came online. The ship suddenly blazed with energy as defensive fields wrapped around its hull. The glow was bright enough to be seen from the alien ships, and Carter knew they would be reading energy levels that made no sense. "Now activate the point defense grid," Carter ordered. Thousands of small weapon systems emerged from hidden ports all over the Leviathan's hull. Each one was capable of tracking and destroying incoming missiles or fighters. The display was impressive, but it was also practical. The aliens were about to learn that their beautiful ships were helpless against human technology. Aboard the alien flagship, panic was starting to spread. "Sir," Krellness reported, "the human ship has over 10,000 defensive weapons. Our entire fleet together does not have that many guns." Ambassador Quinn tried to maintain his calm, but sweat was forming on his aquatic skin. In 43 first contact missions, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to be grateful for the chance to join advanced civilization. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "the human ship is requesting permission to come alongside for the diplomatic meeting." Quinn looked at the massive human vessel on his screen. It was easily 10 times the size of his flagship and radiating enough energy to power a small planet. The idea of letting it come close to his ship made his blood run cold. But he was a diplomat, and he had a job to do. "Grant permission," he said, "but keep our weapons ready." The Leviathan moved toward the alien fleet with easy grace. Despite its enormous size, the ship handled like a fighter craft. Carter watched the alien ships growing larger on her screen and smiled. Their crews were probably terrified, and they had good reason to be. "Admiral," Pete reported from engineering, "all systems are running perfectly. The antimatter reactors are stable, and we have enough power for anything you want to do." Carter looked around her bridge at the crew she had trained for this moment. These men and women represented the best of humanity, and they were about to show the galaxy what Earth could do when it set its mind to something. "Open a channel to the alien fleet," Carter ordered. Nancy worked her controls. "Channel open, sir." Carter looked directly into the camera that would carry her image to the alien ships. "Ambassador Quinn, this is Admiral Carter. We are ready to begin negotiations. I hope you find our ship impressive. We certainly found yours interesting." The message was polite, but Carter made sure her meaning was clear. The aliens had come expecting to deal with primitives flying crude rockets. Instead, they were facing a warship that could probably destroy their entire fleet without working up a sweat. Carter had read the reports from the Mars ruins. She knew what happened to species that underestimated their enemies. The galaxy was full of dead civilizations that had thought they were the strongest things in space. The Zephyrian Confederation was about to learn that humanity had studied those dead civilizations very carefully. Earth had learned all the lessons that mattered, and the most important lesson was simple. In a galaxy full of predators, only the strong survived. The Leviathan hung in space like a sleeping giant, its weapons powered down but ready. Carter knew. The aliens were scanning her ship, trying to understand what they were facing. "Let them scan," she thought. "Let them see exactly what 3 years of reverse engineering alien technology could produce." The monster was awake, and it was time for the galaxy to meet humanity. The diplomatic meeting took place in the Leviathan's main conference room, a chamber large enough to hold 500 people. Admiral Carter had designed it to impress visitors, and judging by the way the aliens kept looking around, it was working perfectly. Ambassador Veltar Quinn entered the room with his delegation, trying to maintain dignity despite the fear that showed in his large, dark eyes. His aquatic species had evolved on a water world, and his skin had a blue-green tint that reminded Carter of Earth's oceans. Behind him walked tactical advisor Krellness, a reptilian being whose scales were dark red and whose eyes missed nothing. The third alien was xenobiologist Thera, an insectoid creature whose compound eyes reflected the room's lights like tiny mirrors. Her job was to study human psychology and find weaknesses that could be used in negotiations. Carter wondered what the alien scientist was thinking as she looked around the conference room. Carter sat at the head of a long table made from earth, oak, flanked by her senior officers. Commander Torres sat to her right, his hands resting calmly on the table despite the weapons he carried. Dr. Foster sat to her left, a tablet in front of her displaying everything humanity knew about alien technology. "Welcome aboard the Leviathan," Carter said as the aliens took their seats. "I hope you find our accommodations comfortable." The conference room's environmental systems had automatically adjusted to provide perfect atmospheric conditions for each species present. The aliens breathed easier as the air changed to match their needs, and Carter saw surprise in their faces. They had not expected humans to have such advanced life support technology. Ambassador Quinn cleared his throat, a sound like water gurgling in a drain. "Admiral Carter, we thank you for this meeting. However, I must confess that your ship was not what we expected to encounter." Carter smiled. "I imagine not. Our intelligence suggested that most species you contact are still using chemical rockets when you first meet them. We have moved somewhat beyond that stage." Dr. Foster activated her tablet, and a holographic display appeared above the conference table. It showed the solar system with all of Earth's colonies, mining stations, and defensive platforms marked in blue light. The aliens stared at the display in shock. "This represents current human space," Foster said calmly. "As you can see, we have extensive industrial facilities throughout the solar system. Our manufacturing capacity is quite substantial." Krellness leaned forward, his reptilian features sharp with concern. "How many ships like this one do you possess?" Carter exchanged a glance with Torres before answering. "The Leviathan is our flagship, but she is not alone. We have found that in a galaxy full of predators, it pays to be well armed." The holographic display changed to show technical specifications for human weapons systems. Energy output ratings, defensive capabilities, and manufacturing data scrolled past the aliens' eyes. The numbers made no sense to beings accustomed to thinking of humans as primitives. "Impossible," Thera buzzed in her insectoid voice. "No species develops this level of technology in such a short time. You have been spacefaring for less than a century." Torres spoke for the first time, his voice calm and professional. "We are fast learners. When we found the ruins on Mars, we studied them very carefully. The previous owners had some interesting ideas about ship design." The aliens went very still. Quinn's skin turned a paler shade of blue, and Krellness's scales seemed to darken. They knew about the ruins because their own ancient enemies had built them. The species that had once threatened the entire galaxy was long dead, but their technology lived on. "You found destroyer ruins," Quinn whispered, "and you learned from them." Carter nodded. "We found the wreckage of a war that ended 10,000 years ago. One side built ships designed to destroy entire civilizations. The other side built weapons capable of stopping them. We studied both." The holographic display changed again, this time showing the technical specifications of the Leviathan itself. The aliens saw weapon systems based on technology their ancestors had feared, defensive measures that had once protected the galaxy from annihilation, and engine designs that violated every law of physics they thought they understood. The species you call destroyers, Foster said, were not evil. They were desperate. Their home galaxy was dying and they needed new worlds to survive. But they made the mistake of thinking that force was the only solution to their problems. Carter stood and walked to the large viewport that dominated one wall of the conference room. Through it, the alien fleet was visible as small silver shapes against the darkness of space. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Ambassador. We learned that lesson from studying dead civilizations. The strong survive, and the weak become footnotes in history books. Quinn tried to regain control of the conversation. Admiral, I think there has been a misunderstanding. The Confederation is not your enemy. We come in peace to offer you membership in galactic civilization. Membership, Torres repeated, and his voice carried just a hint of amusement. What kind of membership? The kind where we follow orders and provide resources while you make the important decisions? Krellness's military instincts were screaming danger signals. What do you want from us? He asked bluntly. Carter turned from the viewport to face the aliens directly. Nothing. We want absolutely nothing from you. We are not asking to join your confederation, and we are not asking for your protection. We are simply announcing our presence and our intention to expand beyond the solar system. The words hit the aliens like physical blows. In 43 first contacts, every species had wanted something from the Confederation. Protection, technology, trade agreements. Something. The humans were the first to claim they needed nothing. But, Quinn stammered, that is not how these things work. New species always require guidance. You cannot simply expand into the galaxy without proper authorization. The silence that followed was deadly. Carter looked at the alien ambassador for a long moment before speaking. Authorization from whom? You? Your confederation? Who gave you the authority to decide which species can expand and which cannot? Thera's compound eyes fixed on Carter. You are a warrior species. Your expansion will destabilize the galactic balance. Other civilizations will feel threatened. Carter sat back down and folded her hands on the table. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity has no interest in conquering other species or destroying alien civilizations, but we also have no interest in asking permission to claim our place among the stars. Torres activated his own display, showing the locations of human deep space monitoring stations. We have been watching your confederation for 5 years. We know about the species you have guided into membership. We have seen how your protection works. The display showed trade routes, resource flows, and military deployments throughout Confederation space. The pattern was clear. Newer species provided raw materials and agricultural products, while older species controlled technology and manufacturing. It was economic colonialism disguised as benevolent guidance. The Terran Republic, Foster said, prefers a different model of interspecies relations. One based on mutual respect rather than hierarchical control. Quinn's diplomatic training finally reasserted itself. Admiral, surely we can reach some accommodation. The galaxy is large enough for all of us. Carter stood again and walked back to the viewport. Her reflection looked back at her from the transparent aluminum, and behind it, space stretched out toward stars that humanity would soon visit. The galaxy is indeed large, Ambassador. Large enough for species that respect each other's sovereignty. Large enough for civilizations that understand that strength and preparedness are the foundation of lasting peace. She turned back to face the aliens. The question is whether your confederation can adapt to this new reality. The meeting continued for several more hours, but Carter knew the real negotiation was already over. The aliens had come expecting to deal with grateful primitives. Instead, they had found a species that was prepared to take what it wanted and defend what it claimed. When the alien delegation finally returned to their ships, Carter remained at the viewport. Torres joined her, and together they watched the silver vessels preparing to depart. "Think they will try to stop us?" Torres asked. Carter smiled. "They will try. Some species never learn that the galaxy belongs to whoever is strong enough to claim it." Outside, the alien fleet began to move away from the Leviathan. Carter knew they would return to their space and report what they had found. The galaxy would soon know that humanity had arrived and that Earth's children were nothing like the species that had come before. The space near Jupiter looked empty until 12 alien ships appeared from nowhere. They came out of the dark like ghosts made real, their hulls gleaming silver under the distant sun. Each ship was beautiful in a way that human eyes had never seen before. Smooth curves and flowing lines made them look more like sea creatures than machines built for war. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet from his command center on Luna Base. The screens around him showed every detail sensors could capture. These ships were big, each one the size of a city block, but they moved through space with grace that made human vessels look clumsy. Jake had been waiting for this moment his whole life, but now that it was here, he felt cold fear in his stomach. The lead alien ship began sending a message. The words came through the communication system in perfect English, though Jake knew these beings had never heard human speech before. "Greetings, young civilization of the third planet," the voice said. It sounded like water flowing over smooth stones. "We are the Zephyrian Confederation. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater galaxy." Jake looked at the message on his screen. The words seemed friendly, but something about them made his jaw tight. The way they said "young civilization" felt like an adult talking to a child. He had seen this kind of talk before during the Mars colonial wars, when the Earth Council tried to make the colonists surrender by being nice while pointing guns at them. The alien voice continued. "We have watched your people take first steps into space. You have done well for a species so new to the stars. We offer you the gift of membership in our great confederation. Under our guidance, your people will learn the ways of advanced civilization." In the communications center, Lieutenant Nancy Brooks worked fast to analyze the alien message. Her fingers moved across her keyboard while numbers and graphs filled her screens. "Captain," she said without looking up, "their translation technology is incredible. They are not just speaking English. They are somehow making us understand concepts we don't have words for." Jake nodded, but kept watching the alien ships. In his 20 years with the Earth Defense Force, he had learned to read between the lines. These aliens were not asking humanity to join them. They were telling humanity what would happen. The difference was important. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Pete Collins from across the room, "we are getting more signals. The aliens are scanning our solar system. They are looking at Earth, Mars, the asteroid mining stations, everything." Jake felt his hands form fists. The aliens were taking inventory like shopkeepers counting their goods. They were measuring human civilization to see what it was worth. The cold fear in his stomach turned hot with anger. On the main screen, the alien fleet moved closer to the inner solar system. They flew in perfect formation, each ship exactly where it should be. Jake had to admit they were good at what they did. These beings had clearly done this many times before with other species. Dr. Amanda Foster rushed into the command center carrying a tablet full of data. She was the best alien technology expert Earth had, mostly because she was the only one. Her work studying the ruins on Mars had prepared her for this day. "Captain," she said, breathing hard from running, "I have been analyzing their ships. Their technology is advanced, but not as much as we thought." Jake turned to look at her. Amanda's face was pale, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Their ships use fusion power, but it is old fusion technology, maybe 500 years behind what we can do now. Their weapons appear to be plasma-based, effective but not revolutionary. They are flying museum pieces compared to what we built from the Martian technology." The alien message continued. "We understand this may be overwhelming for your people. Do not fear. Many species have felt confused when first meeting us. We have guided 43 civilizations to take their place in galactic society. You will be the 44th. Jake looked around the command center at his people. Nancy was still working on the alien signals. Pete was monitoring Earth's defensive systems. Amanda was studying every detail of the alien ships. These were good people, smart people, who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. The aliens wanted to talk. They had requested a meeting at the edge of human space, beyond Pluto's orbit. They expected to sit down with primitive humans and explain how things would work in the galaxy. They thought they would be dealing with a species that barely knew how to build rockets. Jake thought about the ships hidden in the asteroid belt. He thought about the weapons that Earth had built using technology found in ancient alien ruins on Mars. The Zephyrians had no idea what humanity had learned from studying the wreckage of their predecessors. "Sir," Nancy said, "they are requesting a response. They want to know when we can meet for formal negotiations." Jake looked at the alien fleet on his screen. 12 ships that thought they were the most powerful things in the solar system. Their crews probably felt sorry for the poor humans who would soon learn their place in the galaxy. "Send a message," Jake said. "Tell them we accept their invitation to meet. Tell them we will send our finest ship to represent humanity." He paused and smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Tell them we look forward to showing them what human civilization has achieved." Nancy's hands moved over her controls. The message went out across space to the waiting aliens. Jake knew they would be pleased. They had done this 43 times before, and it always worked the same way. The primitive species was grateful for the chance to join advanced civilization. But Jake had one more message to send. This one would not go to the aliens. This message would travel through secret channels to a hidden shipyard beyond Neptune. It would wake up something that had been sleeping in the dark spaces between worlds. Jake typed the message himself. It was short and simple. "Authorization code Morrison Alpha 7. Activate the Leviathan. Send Admiral Carter my compliments and tell her the galaxy is about to meet humanity." He sent the message and sat back in his chair. The aliens thought they were dealing with children playing with fire. They were about to learn that some children grow up to become monsters. The Zephyrian Confederation had guided 43 species into submission. Humanity would not be the 44th. Outside the viewports of Luna Base, space looked empty and peaceful. But Jake knew that somewhere in the darkness, the greatest warship ever built was beginning to wake up. The aliens wanted to meet humanity's finest ship. They were about to get exactly what they asked for.